Okay, so dungeons and Untitled creation will range in size and will be mostly open world. The open world dungeons will be populated to facilitate multiple groups within the dungeon. Instant dungeons will also be present and will cater for solo and group questlines. This is similar to Elder Scrolls Online Delves, which is soloable dungeon content usually housing one killable boss. How Jeffrey describes it is, there are going to be smaller, simpler linear dungeons, then there's going to be bigger, more complex, non-linear dungeons. So there's a little bit of both. We want the environment to be a character. In order for the environment to be a character, these places need to be interesting, and there needs to be a dynamism to them. Dungeons are going to be massive in scale, such as massive caverns, open world spaces, places to suit larger and small commitments where people with 30 minutes can participate. But what about the group sizes though? Well, the party size in Ashes is 8. Now this is much bigger compared to the normal 4 or 5 man dungeon goers. 8 man gives players the opportunity to try out numerous different combos and loadouts for the dungeon they're about to delve into. They'll experiment till they find a build which syncs and complements with one another to make the content more tankable. Plus, who else doesn't want to go into a dungeon with 7 other players to find out what lurks beneath? You need that many to take on the vastness of Era anyway. Certain dungeons and other points of interest across the map will all be affected by the server's node development. Some dungeons will only be unlocked if nodes are developed to certain stages. The storyline objective for players inside dungeons will also be dependent on the story arcs paths chosen through the node system. The drop tables in areas and dungeons will also be tied into the progression of certain areas. And as a side note, there will be underwater dungeons that are part of the naval content. Now, don't worry guys, I aim to cover this in a future video. Okay, so next, world bosses. There are different types of world bosses, such as raid bosses, which can be found in the open world. However, with world bosses, Steven says that when a server downs a legendary world boss, he wants it to cost time, resources, dedication. When you do that, he wants everyone to benefit from it. So when a legendary world boss does spawn, a server-wide announcement will be made. Now, something to mention here is how Intrepid Studios utilize AI, especially with creatures. They aim to make sure that different encounters with similar creatures will yield different player experience. Bosses are scripted and make decisions dynamically during boss fights, which means you can prepare as much as you want for a world boss, but that doesn't mean you'll be ready to combat everything that the creature throws at you. This is something that hasn't been seen in any other MMORPG. Again, a mechanic/feature that separates this from the rest. There will also be repeatable world bosses in certain zones of the map, and some world bosses will have tie-ins with epic Horde mode events going on. And then last but not least, Horde mode. So in Ashes of Creation, there is a piece of exciting content called Horde mode. And what this is exactly is where 50 players gather up to defend the city against waves of incoming NPCs and player-controlled monsters. Each wave is more difficult than the last. Between waves, players collect experience, money and weapons to take back to their hold to defend against the next wave. How to become a player-controlled monster is by using a currency called Monster Coin. These can be obtained by defeating rare elites in-game or buying in store. Monsters that appear in these waves sometimes could take the form of packs of direwolves, hordes of zombies roused from the graveyard, or even, rarely, an epic tier dragon flying out of a volcano once a node reaches its maximum level. The Horde mode events are triggered by activity in the world, such as node advancing, defeating a boss, or constructing certain types of buildings within a node. Horde mode will include adaptive AI mechanics. The rewards are obtained dependent on progress against these NPCs. You can attain coins for character upgrades, cosmetics, and pet versions of the defeated NPCs. But what about the impact? So Monster Coin events cannot destroy or delevel nodes, thankfully. They can disable certain buildings, services, and NPCs within the node. There will be a Monster Coin progression system. This system levels a player's monster skill based on how often they participate in Monster Coin events. So the more you play, the stronger you get, basically. Horde mode has 3 tiers of difficulty. First is Legion monster events. These are common events that occur for nodes up to the village stage. Waves here could consist of zombies rolling across the countryside, finding something or someone to feast on. Second is elite monster events. These occur for nodes that exist between the village and metropolis stages. These include something along the lines of dungeon level bosses and mobs. Last but not least, the hottest difficulty, epic monster events. These events occur randomly in the world, as in the realms where nodes have advanced to the city and metropolis stages of development. This would be a legendary world boss awoken from their long and deep slumber, a mighty dragon perhaps, whose sole purpose is to punish those who have summoned his malice and his hate. In fact, Epic is an understatement, as these epic monster events will require cooperation of nearly the entire server. Another cool feature that comes into play here, this level of difficulty, is that it requires players to solve the mystery of where the boss is, how to get to it, what it wants based on lore, and even finding non-combat methods of fighting or even weakening the boss. Alright guys, that was the video. Thanks for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to smash the like button down below, comment, subscribe and hit that notification bell for future uploads on the channel.